What's up guys? We got May in the chair today and we're gonna have a lot of fun with this one. So if you guys notice, right now we have really beautiful external lengths, okay? And what we notice is the hair is actually quite fine. So when I think of what to do when I look at this type of texture, the last thing I want to do is go ahead and layer too much, because if we layer too much, that is the removal of weight and it's going to expose a lot of the scalp. What we want the end result of this haircut to be is a lot of texture with a lot of strength, okay? She needs the hair to look as full as possible. So the goal actually is very much working with less layers and working more on personalizing the external shape. So the first step I'm gonna take is really isolating the areas of the hair where I find the biggest problem. Now, if I look towards the back, guys, the biggest issue right now is that this is way too long and it's making the whole back area extremely flat. We have a lot more texture in the front, but the back is very, very flat. But what I do like is look at all this texture at the bottom. That actually looks really nice. So the goal here is actually working with a lot more layers through the back, and that's fine because we have way more hair and density in this area. So the initial first section is gonna be isolating the back panel with the sides and then starting with our layer. Let's get to it. Step one, guys, from the ridge of the nose all the way towards the back, we're going to separate the front here. Step two, guys, is I'm going to isolate the back with the front. So we're going to go from here, which is the apex, all the way to close to the mastoid. And then that's going to be one of our first panels through the back. And then we're gonna isolate this part in here, and that's gonna be because, again, I'm noticing the most amount of weight in this area. So this right here, guys, is gonna act as a different panel where I'm gonna layer a lot more in here than I will at the bottom in here. Now I'm gonna get to the cutting. Okay guys, so at this point we've sectioned off the panels, and I want you guys to understand why I've done this kind of oval section. The reason behind this is because all this length in here needs to not be touched through a layer. How I know this is because it's quite fine. If I go ahead and incorporated all this through my layer, what would end up happening is I would reduce the strength through the external shape. I want to keep that as strong as possible, and the layer needs to come a lot more internally. And that is why we went through this oval shape. So very simply now, we've isolated the back panel, and now we're gonna go ahead and refine a lot of these lengths. And the choice of length is very simply, guys, gonna come from where I actually initially like the length through the nape. So if I bring this all down through my vertical section, if I lift this, guys, there you guys have it. That is exactly where my guideline's gonna come from. I'm gonna pick this up, I'm gonna tilt the head slightly forward to make it a lot easier for me. I'm gonna elevate, I'm gonna cut this completely round. I'm gonna follow this all the way throughout. Drop that, we're gonna move our way towards the right panel. Okay guys, section one's done. Section two, again, we work in pi sections because we are cutting this round horizontally. And very simply, guys, how we section this off, you see it's getting really hard for me to isolate this panel, so all I'm gonna do is my body position is gonna move. I'm gonna grab the hair and with tension, we're just gonna move it slightly closer to me. Again, we wanna make sure that we're nice and clean as we're doing this, because this is the process where you guys, I think, rush it and anxiety kicks in. You have to be patient with the hair, okay? Section 1's done. Section 2 now, again, closer to my chest, we're going round. I'm gonna pinch the top, start with the bottom because we wanna make sure we're cutting from our external length initially. So we're gonna take our section, or we're gonna take our comb, pull away, and we wanna make sure that we could see our guide before we make our incision. Okay, we're gonna get rid of the top here. Okay guys, so at this point we're gonna start with the top because we already have our guideline, which is gonna allow us, and it's gonna make it way easier for us to cut our guidelines in there. We're gonna follow that cutting line all the way around leading up to the back. Okay, pushing away from the head to make sure that we have a round cutting line. Guidelines in there. We're gonna do this process all the way leading up to the sides. Okay, so guys, something I want to mention here, as we're getting through the corner, what you're noticing is a slight over direction. Now, the reason why is I still want to maintain a little bit of the width, because given the fact that May's head is quite small, the last thing I want to do is condense all this. I still want some width to give a bit more structure and a bit more strength throughout the corners as well, and add more width when we're looking at her face. So how we're gonna do this is very simply, by the last section, we're just over directing it to 2 previous sections. This is gonna allow us to maintain some length, which is also gonna allow us to have strength throughout the external shape. And here's the thing, if by the end of this, I still feel like it's too long, I could always go back into it when it's dry. And look at this, guys, right now, we have such beautiful, beautiful texture throughout, which if we look at the left side, we do not have that anymore. If we look at the left side, it is very, very flat, and it's not allowing for movement, and it's not really making this stand out. So far I'm very, very happy with how this is all sitting, and we're gonna move on to the other side. Okay guys, so nothing is really changing except for one thing, which is my body positioning. As I get closer to the round surface through the corners, notice where I'm standing. The only difference is, like I said in the other panel, is that my last section, guys, I'm gonna over direct to 2 previous. There's a couple of reasons for that. One is the hairline's a lot higher, okay? So if I go ahead and round this off, I might lose that corner. And 2, because it's quite fine, I need more strength. So all I'm doing is this last section, look at this. The comb now goes against where I'm at, guidelines in here, and we're just going to point cut that, and then same process until there's nothing left to cut. Okay guys, so lastly, there's only 1 or 2 more panels left to cut, and before we get into the personalization, the reason why I'm going to do this, guys, is because the issue now is that this is sitting too heavy and too flat. But again, the last thing I want to do is layer too much in the front, and we want more texture in the back. So it's actually quite simple, because I'm going to do 2 movements at once. By elevating this and cutting this, guys, what's going to end up happening is we're going to retain some more weight through the front, which is what I want, because I don't want to lose any density through the fringe. And I actually want to reduce some from the top, because I also feel like it's quite dense through the bottom here. So how we're very simply going to do this is by picking this up horizontally and just cutting it square. And what's going to happen is, as we get closer to the front, we're going to over direct. So we got 1 section that's going to go around here, and at this point we're going to over direct back to previous. Same process on the other side. So pick it up horizontally, lift this up, and we could actually use the guideline from the other side, and we're going to point cut that in. Section 2, going round from the head. And at this point, we're just last section is going to be over directed. Cool guys, so very simply at this point, all I'm really trying to achieve is as much texture as possible while maintaining the external shape. That is why I'm very much looking at this visually. This is where when technique comes to play, technique is supposed to guide us, but our eye is supposed to finalize this. Okay, so how we're doing this is very simply looking at where I feel like texture would be needed. And all I'm doing is just picking this up and twisting it. And the reason why, because it still allows us to keep and maintain the weight, but the ends, look at that, the ends become really nice and textured, which is gonna look incredible at the very end. This is where, again, this is my favorite part of the haircut. This is where the beauty really comes out. So the reason why we went with a dry cut, guys, if you guys are wondering, and especially now, if you look at the hair, I'm actually doing this when it's dry. Why? Is because at the end of the day, the final shape of this hair is gonna be dry. So I have way more control given the fact that the density is quite low to cut this dry rather than wet. And the reason why we want it to be dry at the very end and why I'm gonna use a volumizing dust is because by having it wet, it exposes the scalp. We wanna make sure that this looks as full as possible, and having a dry, matte product will be best. Okay, so guys, at this point, why I did the diffuser, why did I use the diffuser? Very simply, again, technically I didn't have to because the hair is quite fine. We could have spent another 5 minutes just refining and it would have naturally blow dried it. But if you guys notice, with 0 products, we have so much texture that really comes out, and that's just by refining it, by layering a little bit of it, but you see all this beautiful texture while still having strength throughout the external. That's what we did based off of cutting it dry and twisting it and just adding that texture. And here's the thing, the fringe will probably be one of the most important parts. So at the very end, I just want to see how the fringe is going to sit and how it's going to look, and then I can make that decision if I want to refine any more at the very end once the product's added to the hair. But right now, it's opened up the face, it's added way more texture, it looks amazing. Okay guys, so this is my final look on May, and as you guys notice, you see that strength, you see that texture. The head in the back isn't as flat. We see that big volume that's coming out because of the texture and because we've layered the back, and the front still looks nice and strong with the external shape that just really makes this haircut stand out. Again, we didn't do too much. This is where a lot of the times we look at hair and we think of always having to cut length. All we did is personalize certain aspects of the hair to really make this stand out. And this is my final look on me. Hope you guys liked it, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.